Welcome to episode 4 of Riff and Chips. I'm your host Phil Vernon, and on today's episode, we welcome Joe Nally, bass player and vocalist in the riff-sodden London power trio Urne. Last year's sophomore album, A Feast for Sorrow, was a metal masterpiece and featured in countless Album of the Year lists. 2023 also saw them grace the main stage of Bloodstock and head out on a run of sold-out shows with the Legends in Paradise Lost, before embarking on their own headline tour with Mountain Caller and Tribe of Ghosts. With upcoming slots at prestigious festivals such as Resurrection and Download, 2024 looks to be another big year for the band. I caught up with Joe just before Urne headed off to tour France with Avatar to find out about his roots within the scene, recording with Joe Duplantier, and most importantly, his chippy order. Joe, it's great to meet you. Welcome to Riff and Chips.
Mate, thank you very much for having me. Sounds like a good idea.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, it got a bit daft and got out of hand very quickly. So we catch you just before you're about to head to France for one of what looks to be mostly sellout shows with Avatar. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, mate. It's really a bit of a different one for us. Avatar certainly has a certain fan base, but the strong point for us is we've never actually played France, and we're quite closely associated with France because we've been fortunate enough to have some good relationships with the guys in Gojira, and Joe worked on our album and what have you, and we've kind of got a following there, but we've never played it. But what's really cool about this, it touches on a lot of borders, because obviously France is surrounded by quite a number of countries, and it's quite nice that we've got people coming over from different countries. Obviously, it's just driving across the border, so they're not travelling many a mile. But so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's all going to be sold out coming through to next week, from what I can gather. But yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity for us. And Avatar picked us, which is cool. We met the guys at a movie premiere they did in London. And their management emailed our management a really nice email about us. So, it's slowly getting there, and it's nice to have bigger bands recognising our version of heavy metal, really. And it's good.
Yeah, and are they relatively decent-sized venues? I've not played a lot of shows in France for a long time, so...
Obviously, like with this, it's not actually hitting Paris, which, that's the biggest kind of place there. I mean, a lot of the places are smaller cities. I think there's 3 venues of about 1,700. Then there's another 3 of about 1,400. The smallest is a random one that's like 700. But then it goes up to about 1,000. So they're really good sized venues. And kind of hitting places that not many tours hit. It's really cool. And I spoke to Joe Gojira, and he was just like, "Oh, you guys are playing basically my hometown where we grew up. So here's the point. Pay it a visit, Yeah. So we got that on there. So that'd be cool. I'll have to see if Mario can come down or something. That'd be funny.
I remember,
ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the man's insane. I remember watching a video a while back, and I think it was one of the first tours they've been going out on in a while. And it was just a clip on his Instagram of him just rehearsing, and he was saying how he basically just sits there and he's just in this like trance-like state in this video, and he's just doing ridiculous double kicks, like kind of 16th beats, fast double kicks at like a decent tempo, and he says he does them for an hour solid, and he's just got like a really steady snare and just constant kicks, and his eyes are closed. And I was just like, I remember sending it to our drummer, and I was like, this is what you need to be doing, like this is insane. But
it's so weird. Like, so the first time we met Gojira was in a show in Copenhagen. They invited me and Angus, and we were going there, and it's just like, oh, wicked. And me and Angus walked backstage, and everyone else, it was fine. Christian is not sure, and we got told his English was worse than it was. He's actually all right. But Mario, the only one that I'm really like fucking starstruck by, and I don't usually get starstruck. I don't give a shit. I'll go meet anyone, mate. If you're someone that has inspired me to do anything in life, I don't care.
Yeah.
And but Mario, I'm not a drummer at all, and I can't. Even when we was doing these shows with him, I think the most interaction we had was he was warming down doing yoga, and I was pissed in his dressing room, just me and him, and I was chatting shit at him. But yeah, he still lives there, and Joe lives in New York. Their sound guy was telling us, like Johan, who worked on A Feast on Sorrow. So say, like I think Jean-Michel will go to Mario's studio, and they will sit on one riff at half speed for like 12 hours. So imagine like Le Vent Sauvage,
Yeah.
they will just sit there going over it, and then they might put it up 10 BPM, and then they might put it up, and they just sit on that for days, and they just keep going over that. I mean, I'd be bored as fuck
Yeah.
after about 5 minutes.
It explains. I mean,
Just
it
do
explains
for-
how they're so tight live, though, because I mean, they're just absolutely ridiculous. So I mean, it pays
Yeah,
off. But yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
God,
yeah.
I think I'd rather people say I was a bit sloppy than have to go through it. I think, but
Yeah,
maybe that's why I'm not selling out arenas. But
I ain't got that time, and I've not got that patience. But that's why they're the best at what they do, and that's why we're chatting each other up. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. Yeah, and you were like you said about Joe being in New York. You got to go to New York to Joe's studio to track A Feast for Sorrow,
Yeah,
right? So I mean,
yeah,
that
yeah,
that
yeah.
must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it was surreal. It was surreal when it first started to happen. And I was like, there's no way that he's dropped us a message here. I was just like, this is fucking mad. Because, aside from working on his friends' bands, he doesn't produce anything that's not Gajira, really.
Yeah.
And we never knew the guy. And it was so weird because our drummer literally joined the band 7 or 8 weeks before. Like, me and Angus were well aware, and we had met Joe and we had spoken to him, we had FaceTimes and whatnot, and we'd met him in the flesh. James had nothing like that. And we're outside the studio in New York. Weather was beautiful. Fucking sunny's on, shorts, coffee. And then a taxi pulls up and there he is. And all of a sudden I'm like, that guy's wrote like 4 of the greatest metal albums ever. You know what I mean? I was just like, fucking, fuck's sake. And it's just like, he's so chill.
Mhm.
He's so fucking chill. And our drummer, I joke that our drummer still to this day, still gets really shocked by it. Like, we'd hang out with Joe. He left the studio about 8 days in, where me and Angus stayed for another 8. So our relationship's maybe a bit more kind of down the line. But even when we were doing them shows, he'd be like, Joe the Plancho's just said hello to me. And I was like, well, he ain't going to tell you to fuck off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and he's just still, but it is. So to James, he was literally about to quit playing drums. He's a teacher, he's a drum teacher, and that was it. He literally posted about, I think I've reached the end of my journey.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold up, our drummer left.
Yeah.
And within 5 minutes, I replaced him.
Yeah.
It was just like, before I even replied, I was like, can you wake James up? Yeah, does he want to join? Yeah, okay, sweet. See you tomorrow, mate. And it's oh, what a shame. What a shame. How will I ever do it? Thankfully, but
You've got to move on.
James filled in for us 1 or 2 shows, and he's just a really proper professional drummer. Really fucking knows his stuff and extremely passionate about it. So yeah, it was a mad experience being over there. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening. So, do you know what I mean? It's a buzz. As much as it's wicked to be in the studio, it's also great to do the other stuff around it. And that's like when I go on top.
A studio's a studio, isn't it? Like, once you're in there and you're getting down to business, you're getting stressed out because you can't track something in New York instead of getting stressed out because you can't track something in London or somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever you are in the world, red light syndrome kicks in. But yeah, like you say, having that space. So we're really lucky that for both our records, we've recorded with Johnny Renshaw, that you know from Devil Sold His Soul.
Yep.
We've recorded both our records with him at his studio, and it's in this beautiful village in the middle of Gloucestershire.
Nice.
We've been quite lucky that even when we've recorded in like February, it's been like nice weather. You pop out there to get some lunch and it's this beautiful like little Cotswold village, like all the Cotswold stone, and it's really sunny. You walk into the village and go to the bakery and it's all great, and then you get back into it and it's just blast beats and screams and riffs, and having that contrast is great sometimes.
It was definitely, I mean, the album before we recorded at Foal Studios in Wales during the lockdown.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, that's completely different, and that was beautiful in a little cottage with fucking sheep and cows and whatnot running around. But there was something surreal, like you would walk out into Brooklyn. And Brooklyn, it reminds me, like, there's certain parts of Brooklyn. So I grew up in South London. There's parts of it, it's just got the same vibe. And I'd just be walking around, I was like buzzing. And it was something surreal. You'd nip out and like we'd have a smoke or something. And I'd be like, oh, fucking hell. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is just chill. At night, there was a dive bar across the road.
Perfect.
And I was just like, you go in, just have like a fucking basket of fried pickles and stuff. By the end of it, I looked like, what's his fucking name? Roseanne's husband. I mean, I still do. So, what's his name? Dan or something.
Yeah, Dan. Was it John Goodman or whatever? That was who played John. Yeah. So you mentioned there that you grew up in South London. Mm-hmm. So what are your earliest experiences in regards to the kind of UK metal scene in South London?
So it was weird. So I grew up south of the river it was a lot more progressive, like death metal kind of bands and black metal bands.
Okay.
Then north of the river, it was a bit more hardcore. It was death metal, but it wasn't the technical version. It was a bit more the slam stuff. And of course, I'd go north of the river and I'd be like, shit up here. It's only literally, it's about 20 minutes, mate. I'd be like, the air's different. The air's different. But yeah, so growing up, we had some fucking great bands. Big inspiration for me growing up, there was a band called Gridlock Takedown that were like a 6-piece, 3 guitarists. It was like sort of prog elements of like the techie side of Nevermore meets fucking Rush, meets this and that. And they were big and they had like, they had a bit of a thing attached to them because one of their original guitarists bought a new guitar amp, plugged it in, played in front of his girlfriend, fucking electrocuted and died.
Oh,
straight on the spot in front of his missus. And it was like, fucking hell, how will they return? And fucking will they return? He was like the main guy. And they did, and they put this great EP out, but they never did anything more than that. I think it was a hard sell during that time.
Yeah.
We had some, kind of black metal bands. We had bands like Discarnate.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They were a little bit further down. Trenchhead were North London. We had Flesh Rot. Guys have all gone on to do like kind of other slam or death metal bands. And it was great. And like I say, you go up north of the river and there'd be like a completely different vibe and different people with different looks. Like it was like growing up, I guess south of the river, we had more classic grunge look. The jeans were baggier, more frayed at the bottom. Where North London, they're a bit more smart with it. I mean, I was neither. I just looked like I've looked the same my whole life. I mean, I was born like this. And it was a really good vibe though. It was really good. And like, you would try and get to whatever. We had Kingston near us, which was a bus journey. But I mean, some of the bands I saw a band, Eternal Lord.
Oh, yeah.
And we just turned up to see. It was at Kingston Pill. There must have been 50 people on a Tuesday night. Eternal Lord's second or third show. And I was like, fuck, this is heavy. Fucking hell. And then whoever was supporting them, like Test Switch Isolator.
Yeah. All those classic kind of 30 Days a Night records.
Yeah.
I
just sold their first EP and their split EP for quite a lot of money.
Yeah, the one with Azrael.
So, Azrael, yeah, but it was their version, their artwork.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't play CDs anymore, and I made a good bit of profit on them.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff. Some of those UK bands from back in the day, someone messaged me on Discogs a while back, and they were after a copy of, do you remember Eyes of a Traitor?
Yeah.
So like their first EP, and again, I've got it on CD, it's sat in the cupboard somewhere from years, and, someone messaged me, I had it on my Discogs, and they were like, would you be willing to sell this for like, like 100 quid or whatever? I was like, yeah, of course you can have it. Like, have you got anything else? Look through my list, see what else you want. And there's some weird bands. And
this is what I did with this lad. I mean, I had a couple of copies of Vitrophy's album, not the demo, not the EP. So I chucked a copy of Vitrophy's album in there with it, and I was like, cheers for spending your hard-earned cash on some old CDs. Here's a copy of the Vitrophy one, and I thought I'd whack one in there in case he's never heard them, and I thought, give that a listen. Because that band, I was fortunate enough to tour with them on their last tour, and that band, Vitrophy, slaughtered a lot of music.
Yeah, I absolutely love. I still love Chronicles. Like it. Yeah. Sometimes it really, but like I've got it on CD, but like I say, they're in the cupboard, and like as much as Spotify can be the devil, sometimes it's we all use it. It's an ease in, and sometimes the album's on there, but the Chronicles isn't, and sometimes I'm like I have to stick it on YouTube or something to listen to it because I'm like, I
mean, it's funny with a lot of stuff that's going on now, and if that band was still going, I'm friends with all the singers. I think with the right singer, I think that band is on another level to a lot of this, and I felt they were. I really like Silosis. I really like Conclusion of an Age, and I really like Edge of the Earth. But I would love to have seen Vitrophy write another record. I would have been really interested to see what they did, but I feel like they had to have the right lineup. But when they did, live, Jesus Christ. And of course, like Reynolds is doing what Reynolds is doing now. JJ's in Bring Me the Horizon. Gav, the bass player, I talk to every day. And the others I don't know. I don't really know. But we were lucky.
Joe from Devil, he was in Vitrophy, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Reading scene back in the day, with those, obviously Silosis, Arusha Record, all those sorts of bands. Yeah. I think, especially Silosis and Vitrophy, they were just almost like a bit of a merry-go-round of members. Like everyone was in both bands at some point, pretty much.
In the first version of Urne, we were a band called Chapters. We had Dan Pearce, who sung on Chronicles. Mm-hmm. He sung on in Chapters, and we got to meet a lot of the Reading bands in that. But one band that I felt was should have been bigger. Things were just different then. I thought Exit 10 were a bloody good band because they didn't have the obvious let's have a screamer like everyone else did.
No.
They had a charismatic frontman, great musicians. They tried to do something different and it just didn't pay off, I don't think, in the end. But I think that was a hell of a good band.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that first EP because they recorded that with Andy Sneap, didn't they? I think it was.
Oh yeah.
The first one, the 5-track, and then the debut, the album. I can't remember. It was like grey with a guy on fire on the front of it or something.
Yeah.
I really like both those records. Yeah, and then they kind of faded off, didn't they? I think the singer went to Australia and joined some band that actually got quite big.
Yes, he did. Fair play. But yeah, there was some great bands. The original version of Traces, that was great. When I first saw them, I was like, fucking hell, this is good. But I think it's quite funny now. A lot of the music that was being done back then, some people are still doing it now. Like, and what I find the most baffling thing is this whole deathcore thing. It's not progressed at all. Like, it's not moved on at all. People were going, oh my God, listen to this and that. It sounds fair play to him. Jodhpur Cowboy started off as a bit of a joke and then he got together a proper lineup. Their new album is great.
Yeah,
and
it's
it helps
unreal,
that the singer, it helps that the singer, you know, that's the singer. Whereas I listen to a lot of this, they all do the same technique. There's no character to it. He does have an actual bit of a charisma and like something different to his voice. But I listen to so much stuff and I'm like, fuck, that deathcore thing kills me, mate, because it's just not gone anywhere. But yet it's still massive and people love it. It's like, it's funny to me. It's funny.
So obviously you've been lucky enough. We've mentioned that you've toured with some incredible UK acts over the past few years. So you played some sold out shows with Paradise Lost. You've talked with Orange Goblin. We've talked about Devil Sold His Soul.
Yeah.
Back end of last year, you went out on your own headline tour with Mountain Caller and Tribe of Ghosts. So do you think the UK scene's in a good, strong place at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely fine. I think people are like, oh, it's never been this strong. But I remember Reading having about 8 or 9 quality bands. And people go, it's never been that good. You're talking one town alone had that. There's some really good stuff here. I think Mountain Caller are brilliant. They've got the ace in the pack where they have a drummer that all the other drummers watch and go, that's a proper drummer.
Yeah. And
it's on that tour, there was 3 Unreal drummers. But when the other Unreal drummers are going, he's unique. Because he's not a real straight up metal drummer. Max from Mountain Caller is, a lot of it's off the cuff as well, and it's fucking phenomenal. And you've got great bands. I think Devil Soul to Soul should be double, triple the size they are. When we went out with them, the most lovely guys, professional, they truly care. And what I like, they will spend time to make something important and good instead of chucking out whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, cool, what a band to tour with. And our drummer at the time, who weren't really into that, by the end of it, it's undeniable, you know?
Yeah.
Great live band. There was some really, really great stuff over here. But I think me being how I am, if anyone knows me, I'm a bit straight up and I'm a little bit older. And it's good, you know, I'd be buzzing. If I was 10 years younger, I'd probably be buzzing. But I kind of like what I like. And that's fine. I think there's some really good bands here. You know, there's some stuff on that last Ithaca album, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it's some record.
Yeah, there's some really, really great stuff. You know, a lot of that, you know, reminds me of stuff kind of growing up.
That Ithaca record, the thing for me, and it is something I was going to speak to you in a little bit, actually, it's maybe a little bit of a segue into it. A lot of that definitely reminds me of the first couple of Killswitch Engage records.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a lot of time for Killswitch Engage. I saw the other year, I saw you gushing about Alive or Just Breathing. And I remember reading it and thinking, that's exactly what I think about that record. Like to this day, it's still one of my absolute go-to records. I think it's perfect from start to finish.
Yeah, so do I.
And I know that Jesse actually came out and said that he enjoyed you guys as a band. So I know you said you don't normally get too giddy about people that you respect, but that must have been pretty cool to have him come out and be like,
yeah. I mean, with first of all that album, when we talk about things that are great over here and whatnot, everything at the moment, and this term of what metalcore is now, I don't associate anything with it. Like a lot of these metalcore bands that are coming out now, if I went, have you ever listened to what a lot of people might consider the first metalcore albums being Slaughter of the Soul? Probably never heard it. Have you ever heard Somber Eyes to the Sky, Shadows Fall 97? probably never heard it. So what it is now is so far detached from what it actually truly is at its root.
Mm.
And one thing a lot of that had, which none of this has now, it has a singer that sounds like he's about to break down or she's about to break down, and it means everything to them. Whereas now it's so taut and so precise that it's quite devoid of any emotion. Whereas them records, there's more passion in that opening line on Numbered Days than there is in so many modern metalcore records.
Yeah, I remember first hearing that. I'd been lucky enough to hear, and I'm not sure where I heard it, but because it didn't really get a full release over here, but the original self-titled,
Mhm.
I think I'd heard maybe a couple of tracks off that, probably through Napster or LimeWire or
Yeah,
something,
yeah, same here.
Soilborn, stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then, as everyone did back in the day, I'd be in HMV every Saturday buying new records. And every now and again, they give you these little sample CDs, kind of like ones you get on Kerrang. And there was either Life to Lifeless or Fixation on the Darkness was on that. And I heard it and I was like, oh, this is that band I heard the other week. This is amazing. And then obviously the record got the full release. And I remember getting it, and I grew up in the Northwest, so I'd go into Chester and I'd go into HMV and I'd have my CD player and I'd buy my new CD for the week and I'd bang it straight in and listen to it on the bus on the way home. And like you say, as soon as Numbered Days started, just with that kind of like those toms and those chunks and the screams, I
Hmm.
was just like I was there. Like it got me absolutely straight away. And then just
Yeah,
all the way
yeah.
through. It really is a great record.
I think it's top quality. I think the production still sounds great. I mean, obviously there's a little interlude, but every song on the album is gigantic. I remember I downloaded whatever, I think it was probably Soilborn actually,
Yeah.
on LimeWire or Kazaa or some shit. And then Ian Canfield one night was promoting the upcoming Road Rage tour, and they played Self Revolution, and I did the old press tape record and burnt it over. So I had it 3 times on the trot, so I didn't have to keep rewinding back. And then I went and got the album. That was like my band, you know. And over time, I've been fortunate enough to. I used to email Jesse back in the day before when he was out of Killswitch, and over time we become pals in that, and he likes what I do, and I saw him in the summer, and he was like, oh my god, come over. And he's like, I haven't got my camera, can I grab a picture? And I was like, absolutely. The 13-year-old version of myself would be punching myself right in the face. I wouldn't believe it. And then he was just like, I'm so proud of everything that you're doing. And I was just like, yeah, man, thanks very much. And it's wicked to know we have people like him and Joe and Nurgle and whatnot liking what we like. It's just like 3 lads just playing metal.
Yeah.
No other shit. It's just about the music. And it's nice that other guys who just, are appreciating it.
Now, as much as I'd love to chat about Killswitch all day, we are here specifically to chat about chippy teas. That's obviously the
Uh-huh.
basis of this podcast. So
Yeah.
are you ready to get down to some chippy chat?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, mate.
What local chip shop is it you're going to take me to?
So originally, obviously being from London, there's a number of good ones, and up near where my nan lived, there was a few. But we've all kind of over the last few years recently moved down to the coast near Hastings, and there's one called Mario's. So obviously, got different ones, but Mario's, I'd always go and grab fish and chips, and I'd go to my nan's, God bless her, and we'd watch a film.
Nice.
We'd watch an old western, or we'd watch something new, and I'd always try to go to it's good fish and chips, but living down next to in a seaside town, there's always a couple of good ones popping up. But yeah, Mario's in Bexhill.
Mario's in Bexhill. Nice. And so with your chips, what size portion do we normally get? Do we go large?
No, I get a small. I think a small is just enough, and if it's a generous small, it's fine.
Yeah. Definitely there's certain chippies where you kind of need to get a large to feel like you've had a meal.
Mm.
Usually like the more, we can tell a chippy is like a bit of a posh chippy when you look at it.
Yeah,
Doesn't have that edge that like a good proper working class
yeah.
chippy has. You need to get a large in there, but then you'll end up paying £7 or something.
I went to a fancy fish and chip shop in London, and it's just everything that it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I was with my mate, like, fucking, well, I might have to order another slice of bread or something. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not for me.
So what's your main kind of like accompaniment to the chips?
So if I can, I'd like any type of veggie pie. I don't eat meat.
Yeah.
Growing up, I used to get a saveloy, and I'd buy one for when I was waiting as well. and I'd buy one for the walk home. So,
Perfect.
and it has to. We all know the type of saveloy it needed to be. The one, the skin had to be correct. And
Yeah.
but now I do love a nice, if I can get a nice veggie pie. But sometimes places don't do them, and they do like a cheese and onion slice. But I hate doing that. I prefer to like grab the chips, get a pie, and put it in the oven, and then go and get the chips. But if they can do a pie.
Yeah. Nice. And are you do you like to put a pie on a roll?
No. I keep the bap for. I put some chips straight on the bap and let the juices flow
Yeah.
into it. Oh, fucking mate, it's not even 11 and my mouth is rocking.
And that's the problem doing it now. Yeah, doing it this morning. Yeah, there is
God.
something about when you get a chip wrap and the butter kind of, especially if they've wrapped it in the chippy and you get home and you open it up and all the butter's melted and maybe the vinegar's soaked into the wrap a bit as well. It's
Yeah, mate. I like a roll.
Yeah.
Really get it in there, let it all soak up, and just
big
keep
time.
that. That's like the treat at the end. I'll have me pie and chips, and I know at the end I've got
A chip wrap.
fucking
Yeah, I used to do that sometimes. Like I'd have the roll, like you say, you open up your chips, you put them on your roll, you let it sit to one side, then you eat whatever you've got, and then it's like dessert. Beautiful. And so salt and vinegar. You having plenty of salt and vinegar on stuff?
big time, loads.
Yeah.
Loads. Recently, I was out of a pal, and me and her were walking home that night, and I put in so much salt that it hurt my lips, and we couldn't eat them. I was like, fucking, I was absolute agony. I was like, no, I was drunk, obviously.
Yeah.
And the next day I woke up and it was just like some bastard nicked me lips. It was awful. So, but I love salt and vinegar, and then I let them do it. Then when I get home, turn it over and do the other side at home.
Yeah, I normally like kind of trust their thing. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, plenty of salt because I'm the same, but it's never quite enough for me. I mean, it's probably unhealthy, but like I do like a lot of salt on food. So, you've had your salt, you've had your lips robbed.
Yeah.
How are you quenching that thirst? What kind of pop are you getting?
Do you know what? At the moment, I'm on a bit of a Dr. Pepper thing. I don't drink too many fizzy drinks, but if I'm getting pie and chips, I'll try and get a Dr. Pepper. If not, mate, I'll just have water. I'm pretty after Saltgate. I'm definitely a bit more on the water, and I just sort of dip my lips in there, just make sure there's a bit of life. But yeah, I don't mind a Dr. Pepper, but it's one thing randomly. I've never really gone to town with the old fizzy drinks.
Yeah.
But I, at the moment, a bit of Dr. Pepper, if I can.
Nice. Do you have any kind of moisture with your chips? Do you have any sauces or?
I do like a bit of gravy. I
Yeah,
won't lie.
nice.
But I usually try and do it every 2 weeks, but recently I've been a bit lazy. So the last two pie and chips I've had curry sauce with it. And some places it is quality and it really knocks it out of the park, but it can be very hit and miss. But with gravy as well. But I don't mind a bit of gravy on the side. Which is good, and I'll maybe whack a few pickled onions in there as well. My mouth is absolutely going to town, mate.
Yeah, I bet, absolutely slathering. Yeah, pickled onions. Good shout for that. We have not had a lot of mention of pickled onions, pickled eggs, other sort or saveloys either before today. So it's nice for some of their classic chippy items to be getting their time in the spotlight for sure.
Growing up, the little chip shop near me, like if you were going in, you were younger and you were waiting, she'd make you a tiny little bag as well.
Oh, right, okay.
Probably about 10 chips in there, and as a kid, you'd get it for free, and you'd wait there, and you'd have your 10 sort of chips.
Yeah. Well, the last question I normally ask, you've already kind of touched on it, is do you order anything to eat while you wait? But like you've said, when you were younger, you get a little saveloy, and I think that's the sort of perfect thing. Something like a little sausage, a little saveloy, maybe like a scallop or a fish cake, or just something while you're waiting for your fish in the fryer or something. Yeah.
There has to be the perfect sort of chips as well, because sometimes you have that fatal error where you go to a kebab shop and it's kebab shop chips and it's not proper time cutting, really going to town on it, getting it completely right, and I do love it. And where I live now, the further you walk down, there's a place that me and a pal of mine, we always go. It's like our little romantic getaway. Here, come down. Let's go. It's the furthest one. I don't even know if it's any good, but it's just become a sort of and it's right at the end part of Hastings, and across the way from it, you've got these fishing huts, and what they do, they get loads of whatever fucking shellfish, and they put them into baps with hot sauce, sell them for a couple of quid. I don't obviously touch that, but there's a lovely bit right down there. But yeah, I do. When you walk past and that smell gets you, It's like, do you remember Rescue Rangers? What's it, Monterey Jack? Smell cheese.
You'd like float.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, fucking hell. No matter what time, if that gets up there, game over.
Before we close, we like to give our guests the opportunity to kind of plug anything that's coming up, shows, releases, and things like that. So we have a little section that we like to call. We've touched on the Avatar tour next week and things, but what else is coming up in the world of Urne over the next 12 months?
Well, we're doing a lot of writing at the moment. Writing with Angus on Friday. We've got Download. We've got Resurrection Fest, which we're build quite high. I was like cracking up.
Nice.
Like, especially when I look at what the other UK bands and how they're being hyped and pushed. And we're the ones that I've put up there. I've never played Spain, so I don't know how that's happened. Four Falls Festival. We're headlining a stage there. Don't know how that's happened. Arctangent for the first time. I've heard so many good things.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
We're meant to play it before, but some stuff happened and just didn't work out. But this time, it's a good one. And but then we're flying straight to Switzerland to play a festival up a hill with Creator, which will be a laugh.
Nice.
We're waiting on another tour to possibly come together.
Nice.
But that's mainly Europe. But, we've had things that have just disappeared overnight, and that's the worst thing. You kind of get all your hopes put into place. But I think a big thing for us, we need to start recording the next album by November, December, to have it out, to get that first single out maybe March. Yeah, I think that's always something you've either kind of got to go, right, we've got to dedicate our time to this, or we've got to try and get as many shows as we can. And I think we need to get that next record out and really, really go for it next year. This year's been a bit of a funny one, as you probably see. A lot of the festival lineups are really hit and miss, and I think a lot of it depends on who your agent is, and a lot of our agency bands are not really doing anything this year. So next year, hopefully that makes a lot of things different. But so that's it really. Just getting the festivals, and I'd like to get one more tour in for this year for sure. But mate, things just drop out. Amount of times I've got to open up my email and I'm like, oh fucking hell, never saw that coming. Yeah. And it gets weird. You get to that level now where it's like you have to pick and choose. Like, oh, I don't want to do. We've had to turn some stuff down, and I just hate doing that.
Yeah, especially if you are working as well. There's only so much time a year you can dedicate to it. Depending on what your job is and how much time you can get off and things like that. But you have to pick and choose. You can't be off on tour 5 months a year if you've got a job to hold down as well. We'll get offered shows sometimes. It might be a really nice show and it'll be, do you want to come up and play this show in Sheffield on a Tuesday night? And we're like, we're based in Bristol, we've got work. It's so hard to justify and do it. And it's bad because you could be arguing, we're a smaller band, we should be kind of paying our dues, but then also we're all knocking at the door of 40 now. We don't need to be doing that. I think we've kind of earned the right to kind of pick and choose a bit, in terms of what works out for us.
I mean, it's weird, like, mate, if anyone knows me, I've been doing this, I can't believe how many years I've been doing bands now, and I don't feel that old in the terms of being, because my time and Angus's time is happening now. I was in Hang the Bastard, but I joined that. We had a bit of success. And we did this thing, Chapters, that should have been a hell of a lot bigger. So many people know us because of that. And that's what Urne kind of took a gap, and then Urne sort of blended into that, got rid of one member. But we didn't get rid of anyone. We just went down from 2 guitars to 1 guitar.
Yeah.
And, and all of a sudden our things happen now. And it's exciting because a lot of my mates are just, their big thing out will be able to go and watch the football down the pub on a Sunday. Whereas I've flown to 21 different countries in the last 18 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's a buzz.
Well, Joe, thanks so much for meeting me. I appreciate you meeting me, especially during the middle of the day.
Yeah, mate, it's no problem.
It was lovely to chat to you.
Yeah, likewise, mate.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll bump into you at some point. I'll be at Arctangent, so hopefully I'll bump into you there and we can have a pint.
Yeah, sweet, top man.
All the best, mate. Take care. Really good to speak to you.
Thank you very much, pal.
That was Joe from Riffmasters Urne. He took me to Mario's in Bexhill and ordered a small chips with a veggie pie, enough salt and vinegar to destroy your lips, some gravy, and he'll wash it all down with a can of Dr. Pepper. As always, I want to see your chippy teas too, so don't forget to tag us in any pics or let us know your favourite local chippy on socials using @RiffandChips. Thanks to Rob Collier for providing the dive bomb, Edgar Gibbs for the screams, and Ryan Westwood for the artwork. See you in a week's time for our next episode.